No Further Information. A show for cops, about cops, by cops, and paid for by corporate sponsors. It doesn't matter which corporation, right? All you need to know is that this podcast is going to be supported forever, so it'll never end. After I run out of cops to interview, I'll start interviewing other professions. No Further Information, a podcast for garbage men. What's the correct term for garbage man now? What about a mailman? Trash collector and letter carrier? I don't even mean from a PC perspective. I mean from a maturity perspective. Like, as a 40-year-old adult with a mortgage and back problems, I can't get on the phone and be like, "Oh, the mailman brought the letter. Leave the trash bin with the handles facing out because it's better for the garbage man." So who's the sponsor? Today's episode is brought to you by Reese's Sticks. You know, like the stick versions of Reese's peanut butter cups. Now, obviously, I'm joking. We're not getting paid a penny by anyone for this show. But god damn it if I don't love Reese's Sticks. If you've been living under a fucking rock, a Reese's stick has chocolate and peanut butter like a Reese's, but it's like a crunchy wafer. And it's fucking delicious. It doesn't gum up your teeth because the chocolate is like subtle. It's not crazy sweet. And the wafers give it a good mouth feel. I use the term mouth feel in the way YouTube chefs use it to describe food, not in the sexual way. It's like the perfect sweet snack at the checkout line. Those fuckers get me every time, too. I've also gotten my daughter turned on to Reese's Sticks, so now we, fight for them. Our favorite thing to do is put them in the freezer, and I'll come back and one will be gone, then I'll eat one and she'll eat one. Then we'll have a Mexican standoff to see who will eat the last one. She knows if she eats it, she'll be out on the street. That's right. I pay the goddamn bills. I get the last frozen Reese's stick. It's just it's the law. Can I still say Mexican standoff? Is that culturally insensitive? Okay, I'll compromise and start calling them male persons and garbage people. I think that means something else. Our fake sponsor is the perfect introduction for this very special episode. Our guest today is John DiResta, actor, comedian, and former New York City cop. He hated the job, but not for the reasons you think. And you'll hear how he funneled this hatred with his back against the wall and got the hell out. As a cop, he used his wit to navigate the piss-stained platforms of the New York City transit system, but he doesn't forget where he comes from. John left the job and starred in television and film, has done thousands of stand-up shows, and routinely works on his tan. In the meantime, I left the job and started a podcast. We're excited and honored to have our first celebrity on the show, John DiResta, whose gun wasn't really rusted shut and never has to be stuck at central booking ever again.
Hey, everybody. My name is John DiResta. I was a New York City cop for 12 years. 8 years, I was a transit cop in the subway of New York. 4 years, NYPD. I went to 2 police academies. My shield number was 1623 in transit. My shield number was 1623 in the NYPD. I worked in Coney Island. I worked in every bad neighborhood in New York. And then I did 7 years in the homeless outreach unit.
All that is, was, and will be. Universe, much to be said.
We're real excited to have you, John. You are a premium guest. We usually get the road dogs and the canine cops that troll around Texas. You can find John through his Instagram at John DiResta, JohnDiresta, YouTube at John DiResta Videos, and see him on November 15th and 16th in Governors Levittown in Levittown, New York. Get tickets at vividseats.com. John, one thing that really struck me is you mentioned how you didn't like to make collars.
Right. No, I didn't like arresting anyone. To me, that was a complete waste of time.
Was the atmosphere different, like, back then, where you felt like
when I got on the New York City Transit Police in '86, if you made an arrest in New York, you could sometimes be stuck for upwards of literally 36, 48, 72 hours, and that's 72 hours laying on a roach-infested, couch in the same uniform. Your wife and kids don't know where you are because there's no such thing as a cell phone. You have no money to eat because you only brought $5 out for your tour. I just didn't like, and in the subway of New York, you're arresting people that have fleas, AIDS, head lice. It's not, you're not locking up Wall Street executives. And then you're stuck with this person. You have to frisk them. I didn't like anything about making an arrest.
Now, how did you get, for lack of a better word, how'd you get away with that? I mean, I know that there are no quotas on collars, but I mean, who?
Well, I was a transit cop in the subway, and I would just say, you know what? Crime didn't happen around me. I must be such a good cop. I mean, I finally got, it was a big thing that I finally got an arrest about a year into being a cop. Like, I was like the last guy in my batch. And I hate to overshare, I got jock itch. I got stuck with this guy for like 2 or 3 days, in and out of this whatever court system they had, and the paperwork was delayed. And a lot of cops like that because you got overtime. But I had other interests, and I had a wood shop, and I didn't want to be at central booking for 2.5 days. I didn't want it. I got jock itch. The first arrest I ever made was he tried to break into a token booth with a metal pipe. He was an illegal alien, and I got stuck so long in the process that I got jock itch. Your turn.
And not quite as comparable as mine. My first collar was some little shit 16-year-old who ran away from home. So that wasn't nearly as eventful.
I found it's crazy, and no one's ever really asked me this, and I've been doing a lot of stuff, interviews, comedy, the whole bit. I didn't get a buzz off of arresting somebody. Like I didn't understand at all, and it just didn't interest me. My gun was so rusted shut, I would have to throw it at a perpetrator.
I've heard you make that. I don't know if it's a joke. Is that true?
There is a tiny aspect to it. Obviously, I kept the gun clean and workable in case, God forbid, I had to do anything.
Yeah.
However, I became friendly with the main instructor at the range. You had to go to the range once a year in Rodman's Neck in the Bronx. You had to go once a year to qualify and clean your weapon.
That's right.
And the guy that ran it was Frank Genovese. He was a real old-time, funny New York City cop, and we became friendly because of the funniness. And he was in front of, hundreds of cops every day at the range, so he became a really seasoned comedic person up there. We became friends, and guess what happened every year? The night before I had to go and shoot the gun, he would call me and go, "John, it's Frank. You got the day off, and you scored 100. You're a good shot." So I never had to go. Does that make sense?
That's beautiful. I miss those days.
Yeah, I never had to go. So I don't think my gun ever really got rusted shut, but I do know, I never had to shoot it. I pulled it twice.
Sure.
Both times were on homeless people.
Sure.
And both times I'm really, really, really glad I didn't shoot because I still might be in prison today. That's the way shit works.
Yeah, thank God for that. I'm going to jump back and forth here, but
go right ahead.
Yeah, you're such a funny guy. I always, this is going to sound stupid. I always thought I was a funny guy too. And how much of that played into your interactions with the public? Because, we get more done with talking, don't we? We're negotiators.
Dude, 100%. I mean, I spent 12 years in the subway in uniform and then in the homeless outreach unit. So I dealt with the dregs, the scuds, the most disgusting, non-invested in doing the right thing people. And I never really got into a physical altercation because I could talk my way out of it. And then I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but then on the flip side, when you deal with 5,000 people a day
Mm-hmm.
standing in a subway station in uniform in Times Square at rush hour, you learn to be funny. You learn to just get one or two words as people are walking by. Nice hair, nice shoes. Are you single? Santo Russo was a New York City transit cop, and we used to work rush hour conditions in Brooklyn, 7, 8 a.m., and the most beautiful Italian girls would be coming through the turnstile.
Mm-hmm.
And without missing a beat, Santo would say, "I would love to eat you." And they would just laugh right along. And I don't know if they thought he was being, what's the word? He was being mystical. "I'd like to eat you in a love fashion," or "I would like to eat your pussy." I'm not sure how they took it.
Yeah, which and whichever way they took it worked out for him, right?
It was, now I hated being a transit cop. I hated every little thing, and I used comedy to get out of it, and it worked to escape the lifestyle. However, now when I look back, not only was it my college on how to get really funny, it was fun to have friends and to, I don't have many friends. I don't hang with many people.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun to have a steady paycheck. It was fun to have a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss a lot of it.
I'm like you. The thought of spending another fucking hour in an RMP away from my family. So my thing on the job was DWIs, which are, I would argue a lot easier to prosecute here in Texas than they are in New York. That's a topic for another day. But the thought of being stuck at the jail, stuck at the fucking hospital while I'm missing my kids, or another birthday or another anniversary, absolutely.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude.
Absolutely fucking revolts me.
I never watched this. I never really thought of that, but it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happened a lot. I mean, for me, it's a different angle because as a stand-up comedian and you want to go make some money to feed your kids and pay the bills, you got to be away from them. So,
yeah, but
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, but you're doing something you love, right?
I mean, I like doing it. It just hit me, I watch this. Not to overshare. I get to smoke pot, listen to heavy metal, and sit in the sun and work on my bronze.
You're bronze enough, John. Yeah. When's enough?
Dude, being a stand-up comedian is the only job on earth where you could live like a millionaire on $60,000 a year.
That's crazy, and it's not like the road's easy either, right? I mean, traveling, and you're actually
no. The traveling part is a dry hand job. I don't really like having to get to the places, but I don't do it every weekend. When you do it every single weekend, and your wife and kids are home alone, and the hot water heater breaks, and the car gets repossessed while you're on the road, your son gets arrested while you're on the road. Now that my kids are older, I'm single. I don't have to answer to anybody.
Right.
And I only do this about every 8 or 10 weeks. I mean, I don't do cruise ships. So when I do it, it's a bit of a vacation.
Yeah, you're making your own way, and that's great. Yeah, kind of.
And watch this.
Go ahead.
There's the adventure of possibly meeting a nice single woman while you're out on the road. And now, I don't want to get too political. I'm old school. I like a woman that has a vagina. I'm not sure how you swing, but I like a vagina in a woman.
I do like vaginas, John. I do
Okay.
like vaginas. That much we can agree on. And going back to what you were saying, I do appreciate what the job taught me, and I'm grateful for the experience, right?
100%, dude. 100. Watch this. I worked in Coney Island in the 80s, midnight to 8 in the morning, and it was the fucking dregs of the earth. It was toothless, homeless people. It was people that had no money. It was drunks and hookers and crack whores. And I'm all alone. I don't even have a partner. And what was left except to be funny? Like there was nothing left except to be funny. That's where I really learned my skills. But then tactics, how to deal with people, how to direct people, how to get your point across. It all came from being a cop.
And then when you hit the stage for the first time, you're not like threatened or frightened because everyone's staring at you. You've been doing it for fucking 12 years. You have that already.
It's funny you say that. I never really thought of it back then, but I did have a lot of stage fright, and I put it off. I don't know if you do stand-up. I put it off for a long time because I had living room balls. Do you know what living room balls are?
Yeah, well, you mean you talk a lot of shit, right, from your couch, but once
You're funny in the living room.
right, yeah, or your friend, my friends think I'm really funny. Yeah, no, I totally get that. So that's funny. How'd you overcome the stage fright? Because you don't got none of that now.
I did stand up in like 89 once or twice. Twice I did it in 89, and my heart beated so bad, and I was so nervous. I said, I'm not doing this ever again. It's just not worth it, the hassle.
And you said 89?
So 5 years went by.
Yeah.
Now I was on the homeless outreach bus. I had 2 kids I couldn't afford. I had a wife that just bitched and moaned and complained. And then every night we drove around 50 bums or clients and gave them sandwiches. And I was 27 years old, and my partner said, dude, every night you're really funny on this bus. You know you want to be a comedian. You should at least try it. And I still didn't, and I watched 1 or 2 of these late-night comedy shows, and I said, you know what, if these assholes can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And here's the big thing that got me over it, is I took a comedy class. Instead of going to the open mics raw, I said, let me take an 8-week class and see if I can ease my way into it. And the class eased me into it. And then the graduating class, you graduate, you bring your friends and family. And on my very first show, I got paid $4. Because you got $2 a head, and I brought my brother and sister. I made $4 on my first show. That was set number 1. And last night I did set 7,000.
Wow.
107.
Wow. Yeah. So
I keep a running count.
Yes, and there's definitely for hey, you're funny. Go up there and do open mic. You did the smart thing. You took a class, and there was value in that.
There was value in the class. I liked the class a lot, and a lot of comedians don't admit that they took a class. They think somehow that's a cop out, but I don't see it that way.
When why did you get? You couldn't have possibly imagined that you'd hate the job so much. Why'd you do it in the first place? You don't strike me as a guy who always wanted to be a cop from when you were 5, running around in your pants.
Not at all, dude. I always wanted to be a comedian actor my whole life. That was it.
And why dip your toe into civil service?
I failed out of New Paltz College. I got kicked out in 82, upstate New York. Then I enrolled in Nassau Community College in Long Island, and I got kicked out of that. And I said, fuck it. I moved to Huntington Beach, California. My older brother was in the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. So I'm 18 or 19 years old. I moved to Huntington Beach. I'm drinking, I'm drugging, hanging out at the beach, living the lifestyle. And about 6 months into living there, my dad said, hey, you're going to come back to New York sooner or later. Come back, get a real job. I registered you for the NYPD exam. I got all excited. I moved back. I lost weight. I got in shape. I stopped doing any kind of pot. And I was excited to be a New York City cop. I was, benefits. That's what the whole thing, the benefits, the pension, the gun. I really, really, really said, you know what? This is like an opportunity for a schmuck that has no education. This is an adventurous lifestyle that could spring off a lot of funny. You know what I mean? Like I put myself in a lot of funny situations so I could feed on that and turn it into shit. Well, and then I got assigned to transit, and it was the biggest fucking letdown you could ever imagine, that you're going to spend the next 20 years in the subway of New York and you have no choice.
Yeah, no one chooses transit, right? When you're in the academy, you get to list 3 preferred commands.
It depends on when you came on. When I came on, you had no choice. It was all by your list number.
Right.
I got assigned July of 86. It was all on your list number. And I was told I'm in the biggest police academy class in the history of the human race, Guinness Book of Record shit.
Wow.
2,900.
Yeah.
And out of the 2,900, 308 of us were transit.
Did you get to graduate at MSG?
I graduated to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. With
2,900 other guys. And I took the test, the medical, the physical. I was a transit cop for about a year. I went to go get my new assignment. I even emptied out my locker and told everyone in Coney Island they could lick my bag. I'm going to the real job. Big Brother, we called it. Mm. And the next day, on my 23rd birthday, July 23rd, I was assigned to transit for the second time. And The guy that gave me transit for the second time, I started to cry. And he leaned in and said, "Hey, man, I'm transit. It's not so bad. You should not cry." I said, "I'm a transit cop now, and it sucks, and you know it." And he goes, "Yeah, it really does."
That's crazy.
So I got assigned transit for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to work that night, put my shit back in my locker with my tail between my legs. And then I was going to quit. I didn't like being a cop. I didn't like being a cop in the subway. It smelled like piss. And I was a wise guy. At work, I was like, does anyone realize this fucking job sucks? Does anyone sniff hot human piss along with me? Is this a fucking joke? And then I got disliked because this was their life, right?
Yeah.
These guys believed in it.
Yeah.
And here I am shitting all over it. I was going to quit. And then I met a girl named Fran. We got married right away, had a baby right away, and then had another baby right away. So from the time I got transit to the second time till I had a family of 4 I had to feed was like 24 months later.
Right. And now you almost can't quit.
Now you can't quit.
Right.
To use a terminology, now my work boots are nailed to the kitchen floor.
Interesting.
And I saw stand-up comedy as a way out. And boy, did it work. 5 years from set number 1, where I made $4, 5 years later, I signed a huge TV deal with Disney that gave me the money to quit and move to Los Angeles. And that TV deal saved me from 9/11. That TV deal, I moved to L.A. in 1998.
Wow, 3 years before.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put ourselves in your shoes at this point in the episode for just a second. People don't fucking understand. People need to understand a couple things. What New York was like in the 80s and the 90s. That's number one. And number two, here you are. You're this you're ready to go. You're happy to be a New York City cop. And people don't understand how fucking bad the subways were back then. I mean, they're not great now, but, and you're desperate. You're dying to get out. And now you can't. I mean, you're trapped, for lack of a better word.
I was completely trapped. And now watch this. When I got on the job, this is a true story. When I got on the job in July of 86, the 3 most dangerous jobs in the world, the most deadly jobs were Alaskan crab fishermen, and none of us knew who they were then, New York City cab driver, and New York City transit cop. Those are the 3 most dangerous jobs.
People may also not know that transit police and the NYPD, the city of New York, were separate police departments. That's why you mentioned that, you had to take 2 physicals and get new shield number. Not new, but a different shield number. So what was the merger like for you? I mean, I've heard...
We wanted to merge with the NYPD for years, and then when it happened, nobody was happy.
Right.
For me, it had very little effect on me because I was in the homeless outreach unit, New York City Transit Police. The merge went through like April of 94, like April 4th at midnight. The Transit Police no longer existed.
That's right.
And I just switched the patch on my windbreaker, and I was now a New York City police officer in the Homeless Outreach Bureau of the NYPD. And that's the big effect. That had no effect. And I kept my shield number, 1623.
Yeah, that was cool.
But here's how it worked to my advantage. My whole act was being a transit cop sucks. Our motto is you ride, we hide. It smells like piss. All we do is deal with bums. We're not real cops. Instead of saying police don't move, we say transit don't laugh. This is all in my stand-up act, right?
Right.
And when the merge goes in and I start to be all over TV and get a little bit of fame, I'm making fun of a company that doesn't exist anymore. The New York City Transit Police doesn't exist anymore.
That's right.
So I got very lucky that my employer now wasn't after me to fuck me over. Now, I'm not saying they didn't in the NYPD, and the guys that were still transit didn't like that I was mocking the transit police.
Mm-hmm.
But technically on paper, it was like, hey, I'm not making fun of I like being a fucking New York City cop. This is all I ever wanted to do. I would say that in an interview. I go, but transit, that was a rough gig. And so since it was past tense, I got really lucky that I kind of Like it was a big swipe off the forehead, if that makes any sense.
Of course, yeah. You know, you don't want to. You definitely don't want to get jammed up because someone's pissed off at your act. How was the department with you now coming into the public eye?
Again, I still worked with everyone that was transit. We were all still transit in our mind. We was the same bosses, same everybody.
Right.
And some of them didn't like it. Some of them made it very vocal that John DiResta, if you keep fucking talking, you know your little soft gig in the homeless outreach unit, you'll be on fucking foot in the South Bronx in 10-degree below weather. But just somehow, some way, I heard there was private meetings and people were like, hey, he's a funny guy. At one meeting, John Rowland, who was killed on 9/11, John Rowland said this to people at a meeting where they wanted to fuck me over. I heard this years later. John Rowland stood up and said, John DiResta, if he was a New York City garbage man, would be making fun of being a New York City garbage man, and he would be New York's funniest garbage man. The guy's a funny dude. He's not making fun of our families. He's making fun of the situation he was put in against his will, and that company doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and we don't have to, you know, here's the thing too, right? We don't have to act like, oh, you know, at the time being a New York City transit cop is so great. It does fucking suck. That used to be the motto at the 115 anyway. The job sucks, you know, and so why not have this guy, you know, shed some light on it and make it funny? Isn't that what we do anyway?
Now watch this. Guess who was a New York City transit cop? You'll never guess in a million years.
See, I don't know too many ex-NYPD guys or New York City police guys who went on to any notoriety.
Now, Eddie Money, the singer, was NYPD. You know that, right?
They say that he was a PAA, not a cop. Do you know this? Can you confirm or deny that?
From what I heard, and I've done 2 gigs with him, I heard he was a New York City cop in the police academy. And somehow, some way, marijuana or something, he used marijuana or it was written on a piece of paper or something, and he just resigned. I heard he was a real New York City cop, never on patrol. You follow?
Right. Yeah, because in the NYPD...
Maybe you heard of this comedian, Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, he tell me how he was...
Eddie Murphy's real dad was a New York City transit cop.
That's crazy.
Maybe you heard of Abdul-Jabbar, the basketball player?
Of course.
His dad was a New York City transit cop.
Crazy.
And the oldest fighter in the UFC, the Black Panther, 55 years old when he fought in the cage, black guy, was a New York City transit cop.
Crazy. You know, you would think that more New York City cops would go on to do, you know, kind of what you do. And I wonder why that isn't the case.
It's a very, very, very fucking tough business. I do know a lot of guys that check in with me that want, you know, that are cops and firemen that, you know, they kind of look up to me as a hero. So there are guys doing it. But, and dude, I'm on a list of famous civil servants in Hollywood. There's a list. You ready for this?
Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi, New York City fireman. He's a friend of mine. I had his number for years. I lost it, but we met a few times.
Who else?
Dennis Farina.
Yep, he
Remember
was a cop.
him?
Yeah, he was on the job.
He was a cop. Allegedly killed 3 people in Chicago.
I believe it.
Steve Buscemi. I don't know how old you are, but on Kojak, he had these lieutenant. I can't remember the guy from Kenneth Dobson. Kevin Dobson was an actor. Kevin Dobson was a Long Island Railroad conductor.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, what's his name was a mailman. He was from The Office. Really funny guy. What's his name?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. One of the actors on there.
Yeah, the main guy on The Office, the American version, was supposedly a mailman.
Yeah, Carell.
Carell was supposedly a mailman.
Yeah, who knows? But you know, none of them are doing. You know, Steve Carell's not as famous as John DiResta, right?
There you go.
Yeah,
dude.
there you go. You talked. I heard you talk about you worked the shooting job of Tupac in Times Square. Can you tell me about that job?
Oh yeah, I talk about that. I was with that we were there that night. We got there after it happened, but I built it up a little that I was there a little bit early, and that when we got back in the police car, because he was shot in Times Square, I was in the homeless outreach van, and we were right around the block, me and Mike Venkus. And when we get back in the police van, Tupac had got shot 5 times that night, twice in the skull, twice in the wrist, and the 5th bullet went to his scrotum. and he lost a testicle. And so we got back in the police van, and my partner Mike goes, it looks like with that injury, Tupac's going to have to change his name to One Pac because he lost a testicle.
Now, that sounds like a joke you'd make, but I guess all cops are funny, huh?
Oh, dude, I said this. Were you a New York City cop?
I was an auxiliary out of the 115.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was 40,000 cops when I was on
Mm-hmm.
transit, housing, and NYPD.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, when I look back now, I never realized how extremely funny a lot of these guys are. Extremely funny. So I got to hang out with some of the funniest mofos ever. And now, watch this. When I say I was a New York City cop in L.A., dude, nobody claps. Back in the day, everyone would clap, hey, your service. Dude, no one claps to the point now where, you know what I have to say to a group of people where I'm up there trying to be funny, and I go, thank you for that big hand. Let me make a little footnote. I would have given my life for any one of you, and you're strangers, and I would have given my life. Can you say the same thing? Well, probably not.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, John, but not a lot of people are fans of cops these days. And but
watch this. Here's what I'm getting at, and let me go a little deeper.
Go ahead.
We grew up in New York. We respected a police officer.
Absolutely.
Most people, middle America, respect a police officer and what he does. These people now are so convinced by the news, that's the scary part, that they don't respect and they don't like cops because they're being told not to, and they believe it. That's the scary part.
Well, because all cops are racists, and, you know, every cop out here is just out to fuck you. And, you know, I've mentioned this on previous episodes, but, you know, I've had guests who come in here and they are just so varied with their backgrounds and stuff. So the same thing that you accused us of doing, you know, lumping all fill in the blank people, you're fucking doing to us, you know, just because we wear a uniform. And I can't sit here and talk about a cop without giving you some unique background, coming from, you know, some poverty, abuse, mistreatment, then to rise up and become a cop who goes out and protects people and upholds the law. Why do we all get lumped in with the pieces of shit that you only hear about in the papers?
Yeah, dude, cops get really bad press, dude, and they keep you know, some of them obviously are well deserved, but if you're at home and the only time you see a cop on the news, he's beating a black guy. You only see a cop on the news, he's shooting someone that was in a no-knock warrant. The only time you see is that, and they just keep happening. It's a really, really unfortunate that they keep happening.
And now
they're on camera.
Yeah, and now this is making cops, good street cops, not want to do their fucking jobs. Fuck that. I'm not going to.
Oh, dude, I watch this. I got on in July of '86, and in August of '86, they indicted Officer Stephen Sullivan for shooting Eleanor Bumpers. Do you remember that case?
Tell me about it.
Eleanor Bumpers was a 500-pound black woman who was being evicted for her apartment for not paying rent for 10 years in like 1984. And when the marshals came to kick her out, she threw boiling acid in their faces. All right. So, you know, she threw boiling acid in their faces. So the next day they send the emergency service from the NYPD. Stephen Sullivan goes in. He's got a shotgun. She comes at him with a butcher knife. He shoots her twice. He gets indicted for murder for the first time ever. That's what I'm getting at. A month into my cop in the academy, they indicted him for murder. I instantly went in my mind, this job for $400 a week is not worth going to prison for.
Right.
So I was never, ever, ever going to get involved in anything. I was going to back up a fellow cop. I was going to back up a civilian if they're getting injured. But other than that, I'm not looking for anything. So much so that if I had Sheep's Head Base Station for the day, 8 hours on a day tour, Sheep's Head Base Station, right? You follow?
Yep.
I would check in with the token clerk, say, I'm here. I'm Officer DiResta. I'll be on the platform. I would go to the farthest end of the platform and stand there for 8 hours. If it was outdoors, I would work on my tan. If it was indoors, I would read a book. and I would stand at the end of the platform so I didn't get involved in anything.
That sounds miserable.
And when Sullivan was indicted for this, the first shot blew off Eleanor Bumpers' hand.
Mm-hmm.
So now she was no longer holding the knife. So you killed her in cold blood. And his defense was, I was taught to shoot twice, to stop, always shoot twice. He was found not guilty.
Yeah, and, nowadays, so we had a cop who, the other day, in the papers, getting indicted, immediately fired, getting indicted because female boiling water on the stove, and he professed that she was going to throw the pot of boiling water at him. Completely bad shoot. Don't get me wrong, it was a bad shoot, but we're getting into this thing now where it's almost cyclical, right? So cops are villainized. Cops don't want to do their job, and then when it is actually time to fucking step up to the plate, they're hesitant to shoot. They're hesitant to defend themselves. So that's why cops getting killed.
Yeah, dude, I am so glad I'm not in that. They name a street after cops that die, and they just named a street after John Rowland, who was killed on 9/11.
Right.
And John Rowland's the guy that said John DiResta would be New York's funniest garbage man. And they just named a street after him somewhere where he lived just this last week on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said that I'm so glad between my 12 years on the job that, my kids never had to go to a thing where they name a street after their dad.
Yeah, fuck that.
That is right, dude.
Yeah.
From the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good.
I was a New York City cop for 12 years. Thank you for that big man. So I was the best cop you could ever meet. Let me get that out of the way. I was the best cop. I didn't care if you were black, white, Hispanic, Puerto Rican. I didn't even care if you broke the law. I didn't give a shit at all as a cop. At all. I had 9 arrests in 12 years. Think about that. I had 9 arrests in 12 years. My own son has been arrested more than that.
Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be
I'm here talking to John DiResta. He's a comedian, former cop. You can find him on Instagram at John DiResta, DiResta, YouTube at John DiResta Videos, and catch him in Levittown, New York at Governors Levittown, November 15th through 16th. Tickets on vividseats.com. John, your comedy is great. I love your shorts, and it's very, very relatable. You've talked a little bit about your kids, and I have little kids. I have kids under, who are under non-teens. They're real young. But my biggest fear is that, they'll rebel against their cop dad and get fucked up or get into trouble. You've talked publicly about your son and, some of his troubles. What happens? Is it a rebellion? Is there something we can do or not do?
My case is real weird. I have 3 kids right now. Their ages are 34, 33, and 32. And my son was a drug addict and a criminal. And for some reason, he disliked me a lot. And all I ever did was save his life 50 times and raise him up. He's doing okay now. We live together. He's a squatter in my house. And just the other day, I said, dude, no rent, 6 months, nothing. And you know what his answer was? I get mail here.
Okay, what does that
mean? Like he knows his rights.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I asked him once, he went from marijuana to right to heroin.
Jeez.
And then, all this other shit, methamphetamine. I would say this. I don't know what his reasonings were to become a drug addict. I don't know if there was trauma I don't know about. That's usually, unfortunately, that combined with it. However, I will tell you this as a father, keep them in Little League, keep them playing the guitar, keep them playing basketball, keep them doing their hobbies, get them encouraged in shit that's just not, hey, we got nothing else to do. Let's go smoke pot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I would have done looking back. I would have been around more. Between being a cop and a comedian, I wasn't around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
So a little bit of
encourage.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a comedian and actor when I was 10, 15 years old, and no one encouraged it.
Right.
You know what I mean? No one ever said, hey, go to an open mic at 15 like Eddie Murphy. No one ever said, you could take an acting class. No one ever encouraged it, ever. I look back, dude, I took filmmaking classes in high school. I was like learning how to make films in high school, and nobody encouraged it. So if you can encourage, when I went to college at 18 years old, in my mind, I'm like, why the fuck am I going here? I don't even know what I want to be. Why am I taking marketing in a college?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So try and help these kids find out what they're good at, what they want to do, and then buy the shit for them, encourage it, send them to that school. You know what I mean? My brother Jimmy went to an art school. He knew he wanted to be an artist. I just knew I wanted to be an actor, comedian, and I knew there was no path to it. It was like saying you wanted to be an astronaut. You're just never going to do it. And at the age of 27, I made the mental change that, you know what? I don't like what I'm doing now. I want to do something different. And watch this. We had 2 kids at the time. We had 2 infants. We had a 1-month-old and a 1-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home and I said to my wife, look, I'm going to try stand-up. I'm going to make a real go for it. I'm letting you know. And I need your support. And I said, it might take 10 years to get paid.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I got paid on that very first show, $4. I thought it would take 10 years to get paid. And there was a long pause, and she said, I want another baby. She said, if you promise to, let's have one more baby and I'll back you 100%. And before I answered, I said, if I have 3 infants, I'm really going to have to work at being a comedian to make it work. I used it as an advantage, and I said yes. And 9 months later, our daughter Shannon was born.
And you created your own stakes. Like, I can't fucking fail at this.
Stand-up comedy is a very unusual thing in the sense that when you do really good on a show, you're like, oh, that worked, this worked, and that worked. I brought joy to people. It was a real buzz doing it.
Uh-huh.
And it makes you look forward to doing it the next night. And then the next night, you just tweak that one word, you drop that other dirty joke, and then you added this, and you have it on tape that you can listen to. And wait a minute, I can improve at this really quickly. I can improve on this, and ready for this, on a day-to-day-to-day basis.
Right.
And then when I'm out in my real life, I could test these jokes on people without saying, here's a joke. I could just tell a funny story. Like literally on a day-to-day basis, I'll tell 7 to 10 of my stand-up bits that I'm going to do that night to people at the store, at the lumberyard. I'll be waiting online. Hey, where are you from? With that accent. I go, well, I'm not retarded. I'm from Long Island.
Yeah.
And then they'll say same thing. Like some people say same thing, and then I have a joke for that because I do it every day. They think they're saying same thing for the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got very lucky in the sense that when I first started doing stand-up, our teacher, Lee Frank, said, unless you do 3 to 5 sets a week, don't even bother.
You have to be
Don't even bother.
You got to be fully
You got to
committed.
do 3 to 5 a week. And now, 32 years later, I do a set every 24 hours. I do 7 sets a week.
Yeah, you got to be you got to be fully committed, and I love what you said about tweaking every single show, a little word here, a little word that, on a much smaller scale. Is this show is, my little passion project. Haven't made a fucking dime from it, but I listen back to some of the shittier shows, right, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I could do better, and eventually, putting out a better product that hopefully people will listen
Dude,
to.
there's an old saying that no matter what you do, that's a repetitive thing. You're going to get better at it. You get better at stand-up whether you try or not. But I study the sets. I go over. I take notes. You remember Patrice O'Neill?
Yeah. Rest in peace. Yeah.
Patrice O'Neill saw me with my notebook one night, and he goes, "Y'all taking them notes here? That notebook shit. That shit worked." I said, I think so. Before I did set 500, I had a $600,000 TV deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it works.
Yeah, it's an art and a craft, just like anything else. So,
Dude, anything you can get good. And here's what my brother Joey said 32 years ago. If tomorrow you became a carpenter, you have 40 hours a week to learn how to swing a hammer. As a stand-up, you only have 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and 5 minutes
right.
to get better. So
Right.
you better look at the tapes. You better listen to those recordings.
Yeah, I mean, the window is just so small. Were you the only cop in your family? First and only?
It's funny you ask. My dad was a New York City fireman 25 years. I was raised by New York City firemen, the greatest men on the face of the earth, the funniest, most solid, rock-solid men on
sure.
earth from Brooklyn, Queens, New York, and Long Island. So my dad was a fireman. My Uncle Tony was a fireman. My Uncle Dickie was a fireman. My Uncle John was a fireman. I was the first cop in the family, and my older brother was in the Marines, and my younger brother Jimmy was more of like an artist and a toy inventor.
So then why not FD? Why PD?
Oh, dude, for me?
Yeah, for you.
Are you kidding me? I'm not running into a fucking burning building.
you would have. I bet you if you had joined Fidney, you'd still be on the fire, John.
No, dude, no. I would have. I never for a second. Here's two things. My dad registered me for corrections and fire. I didn't take either.
Right.
And I never wanted to be a fireman. I don't want to run into a burning building. And this is a real inside one. Out of 11,000 New York City firemen, all 11,000 work in a firehouse. No matter how much time you have in the job, you're a fireman.
Right.
In the NYPD, I knew that you put 5 years on patrol, you're an academy instructor, you're on the boxing team. You know what I mean? I knew there was an inside job for the second half of my career as a cop.
Right.
So that was one of the reasons that kept me interested.
Right. Do you?
I mean, that's one of the reasons I didn't become a fireman.
Could you imagine working corrections?
No, not at all. Not for 1 second.
That's
the joke I do there. My dad, right up to the day my dad died, he goes, "I love that joke." He said, "I'm not going to be corrections, so they could butt fuck me and then cut my head off with a shovel."
Is that what happens?
No, that's what I always imagined that job.
Yeah,
and
me too.
In New York City, in New York City, you're in there with the scum of the earth, the lowest low. Dude, I didn't like being a transit cop because everyone I worked with was kind of an uneducated fucking dumbass motherfucker because they worked in the subway. And times that by 1,000 when you work in a prison.
Yeah.
And they lock you in.
That's the
You
word.
talk about missing your wife and kids.
Yeah.
You're like, "Hey, I get off at 4. No, you have to work another 8 hours, whether you like it or not. So that wasn't for me.
No, I could never imagine working the jails here. In Texas, you have the county sheriffs who run the county jail, right? So you're bringing your collars to the county jail, and I'd step in there and just fucking felt the film, of like depression and almost like sickness and I could never.
Yeah,
never.
no, dude, I never. I wasn't interested at all. And then I took the Nassau County cop test. I wanted to be a Nassau County cop. And somehow, some way, since I was Caucasian, my score got fucking bent down, so I didn't get on Nassau.
Yeah.
And then I was going to become a cop in Rochester, New York. We had the 2 little kids, and I wasn't doing stand-up yet. I was still looking for the answer of what my life is going to be fulfilled with.
Mm-hmm.
And I called Rochester, sent a resume, spoke to a Sergeant Rizzo. And when I hung up, I said, "I don't want to be a cop in fucking New York. Why would I want to be a cop where it gets 50 below zero?" And that was one of the decisions where I said, "You know what? I'm going to turn to something I want to do." And it was stand-up.
Yeah, no.
And dude, I'm a really good example of any man that's fucking stuck in a life. Most of us hate our lives with the wife, the kids, the bills, the fucking day job, the in-laws, the fucking all of it is a dry hand job. And I at least made the effort and made the escape. So I might turn this shit into a white trash Tony Robbins fucking seminar. Your turn.
Yeah, I think all joking. I don't know if you're 60% joking, but John, for real, people don't understand. They can empathize, but they can't understand like when you feel that feeling of being trapped and how you fucking pull. You're in a long deep well and you're fucking clawing against the sides just to get out, and you got out, man.
Oh, dude, I got out, and I live in LA. You know what I mean? It's always sunny. People think I'm a half-ass star. I'm in I worked with 6.5 Oscar winners. You want to hear that story?
Yeah, tell me.
I'm not an extra.
I know
I'm in Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock,
That's right.
Oscar winner.
That's right.
Michael Caine, Oscar winner. I'm in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days with Matthew McConaughey, Oscar winner. I'm in How to Lose Miss Congeniality 2, Regina King, Oscar winner. I worked with Sidney Lumet, who's a director in the 70s. He's an Oscar winner. And I auditioned for This Is the Half, and I'm missing one. I worked with so many Oscar winners, I forgot. But here's when I say 6.5, I auditioned for Steven Spielberg over a speakerphone. Okay?
Wow.
For my New York accent.
Right.
For the movie War of the Worlds. They were doing the commercial, and they wanted a real New York City accent, but all they needed was the voice.
Right.
So Mr. Steven Spielberg goes, okay, number one, what's your name? I said, John DiResta. He goes, you were the volunteer fireman from New Jersey? I go, no, I was a New York City transit cop. He goes, same thing. And we had a little laugh. And I did the line. Ready? Here's the line. There's something down there, and it looks like it's moving. Okay, do it one more time. There's something down there, and it looks like it's moving. Okay, John, thank you. And the next day, I got FedExed a check for $700. I'd never been paid for an audition, and I got FedExed a check. So the fact that I got paid, I think I could say I worked with Steven Spielberg.
I'll put that on your list. I think that counts.
I think it counts. But what I'm getting, I don't know what the point was, but
no, the point.
I like I said, I got out, and I got out in a grand way. You know what I mean? I got out. The average person thinks I'm a fucking star going to coke parties with Bruce Willis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can speak. You can definitely speak to that. You were in a position.
Oh, and hey, dude, guess who the other Oscar winner I forgot was? I'm sorry.
Tell me.
Silly me, Robert De Niro.
Oof, the king. The legend.
You ever see the movie 15 Minutes?
Of course. Love that movie.
You did?
Yeah.
Dude, I was the guy that got shot in the shoulder. I was Ed Burns' partner, the fireman.
I love Ed Burns. He's a true New Yorker.
Ed Burns went to the same high school as me.
Is that right? Yeah, true New York.
Hewlett High School.
I always loved Ed Burns, and that was a great flick. Tell me about the day you turned in your papers. Was that memorable?
It's funny you say that. I was in the newspaper. A lot of people knew that I had a TV deal and I was going to resign. I drove to One Police Plaza in my dad's car. He lent me his car for some reason. And I parked 3 inches in the red. 3 inches in the red. And I'm like, fuck them. They could suck my cock. It's 3 inches in the red, right? I go in, and you have to hand in your bulletproof vest in this room. And it's a 300-pound black girl with 8-inch fingernails. You can't quit. You can't move to Hollywood. They're going to, that business, they're going to fuck you over. You got only 8 more years for a pension. Thank you, Laquana. Now I got to go hand in my shield.
Right.
And another desk. Now it's a fucking 450-pound black girl with 9-inch fingernails. You can't quit. I'm kind of doing the right thing. I got a little money waiting at the other end. Bump, bump, bump. Dude, I get down the basement of One Police Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
I have to hand in 2 handguns.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy behind the just like Barney Miller, like a metal fence with a little aperture and a drawer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I said, hey, I just resigned the NYPD. I'm here to hand in 2 handguns. And the guy goes, let me see your ID card. I go, I don't have one. He goes, let me see your shield. I go, I don't have one. He goes, you're telling me you're standing there, you got 2 handguns and you can't prove you're a New York City cop? I said, exactly. And he just walked away. He didn't even say anything. He just walked away. And I'm standing there, and then who walks by? John Criscolo was a cop I worked with who's on Banana Gun Squad, light duty, for having a casino in his garage in Brooklyn. He had slot machines.
Oof.
And he walks by, DiResta, we heard about the TV. Come on. So he invites me back behind that thing. I hand in my handguns. I'm done. I'm done being a New York City cop. Good feeling. I go back to my dad's car, and there's a $55 ticket on the windshield.
Get the fuck out of here.
For parking 3 inches in the red. I get in the car. Now, I know I'm moving to L.A. It might have been my car, because I don't think I would have done this to my dad. It wasn't in my car. I do the old white trash where you turn the wipers on and it brings you the ticket.
Yeah.
You're sitting in the car, you do the left claw fucking white trash ticket hook.
Yep, I'm familiar.
I take the ticket, I set it on fire, and light my first joint in 12 years.
Look at you. What a story.
Who's the asshole now?
Come to find out it's still unpaid, you know.
I never paid it, dude. I never paid it. And I felt really free because I can get, like I said, you probably don't know this. I was a pot smoker before I went on the job. And then for 12 years, I never touched it. And from then on, at night, I could do the stand up and come home. And for the first time, you got to remember, I was married maybe, 10, 15 years when this happened. And now we could smoke pot together. My wife was a pot smoker while we were married. I just couldn't be in the same room. You know what I mean?
Wow. Talk about
so now
discipline.
We can smoke pot a little and have a little bit of fun. And dude, we had the biggest laugh my wife and I might have ever had. She was from Rockaway Beach, Queens, a redhead.
Mm.
The biggest laugh we ever had was I quit the police department, and only about a month later, I had to fly to L.A. to find the writer of my show. You dig?
Yes.
I had to meet a couple of show writers that, he worked on this show. He worked on Bonnie. This guy worked on Bonnie Miller. So they put Fran and I in a really nice hotel on Sunset Boulevard. Now, I'm a civilian only about 3 weeks, and we buy some weed in L.A. that's like this, funky shit that, medical marijuana. And back then you could smoke in the hotel room, and we get really stoned, and I go, let's watch TV. And I pick up the remote, and dude, it's the stupidest thing. It wasn't stuck to the nightstand. Like, you stay in a shitty motel and the remote is, so no one steals the remote. You could like spin it, but you can't pick it up. And we just had the funniest laugh that we made it. We could pick the remote up and hold it in our hand. You know what I mean? We must have stayed at X amount of motels where the remote was stuck to the nightstand.
Right.
And it was this funny little inside joke. And literally we laughed for like 15 minutes that free moving remote represented, wow, there's a new freedom. And we're moving to LA. We're moving to LA to be rich and famous. There was a real exciting buzz about it. And then 3 years later, dude, I went completely broke. Completely. Not a dime in the world. In a house that's $3,800 a month, 3 car payments, the whole bit. And I had to take a loan from my parents. And thank God they co-signed a loan for $30,000 because 9/11 had happened. Now you can't be funny. In LA, all comedies are canceled. And I rebuilt. I started a woodworking business, and that's when I became a road comedian. All through like 2002 to 2006, I'm in Hong Kong, I'm in Alaska, I'm in Jersey, I'm in Florida, and, every weekend in a hotel. And, it was a rough life while the wife was at home with a drinking problem. Then my son turned into a drug problem, and I'm in a hotel in Milwaukee because I need the $2,000 come Sunday night.
So just a roller coaster, right? You get out, then you...
Dude, up and down, in and out. I tell everyone, ready for this? People say, what's it like out in Hollywood trying to make it? I go, standing in the subway in a police uniform alone from midnight to 8 in the morning for 12 years is a breeze.
Always be thankful for what you have.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And now it's taken me 25 years to really iron out woodwork, stand up, and I get 2 checks a month. I get a Screen Actors Guild pension, which a lot of people don't get. I get it once a month. I get paid from the Screen Actors Guild, and all from the movie Miss Congeniality added up to some special number. And I'm Social Security disability. I have a toe removed from the diabetes, so I got Social Security disability.
Well, sounds like you've made it then, John. Well, thanks again.
I have handicapped parking, dog.
Hey, there you go. Maybe no more summonses, huh? Thanks.
Yeah, dude, it's taken a really long time for this to iron out. But like I said, today I'm listening to Black Sabbath, sitting out in the sun, waiting to do. I only have to do 20 minutes on each show tonight.
Uh-huh.
And like it kind of hit me in the last, believe it or not, in the last few hours. I was like, all right, and I'm single now. You know, I'm like, all right, you know, this isn't the worst thing.
And it's all because of hard work and determination, not because of luck.
Not at all, dude. And I'm telling you, 7 nights a week, I'm in the really, you know, every one of these gigs I do, people are like, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at? Shouldn't you be at? I go, look, I'm working every night. I'm working it out in the gym. And, you know, and a lot of these places I go, they put me on right away. So I get there at 9:00 at night to the Liquid Zoo in Van Nuys, California. And at 9:15, I'm in the car with a set that I could study. And I worked on one specific joke or one specific action and see how it worked.
Mm-hmm. You know, you put in the time. That's the most important part. This didn't happen overnight.
No, dude. No, you know, it's and a lot of people nowadays especially in the comedy business, they're funny on TikTok or funny on Instagram, and then they show up and they don't have an act. You know, they have no act. So when they see someone like me that's like, oh, fucking opening joke, he introduced himself and he was funny and he made fun of the fact that he's in Reno for the whole weekend.
Well, you know, as the space gets more and more diluted, if you show up and you just have a fucking semblance of a work ethic, you're going to be a unicorn, and I think that's what you have.
Yeah, dude. Dude. You're smarter than your Nassau Community College education. Where did you go? Suffolk County?
No. I went to City College in New York. I'm a New York City guy, so I went to City College, flunked out, moved here to chase some tail, and eventually got on the job, and now I run a podcast with 24 subscribers and no money.
And what town are you in?
I'm in Dallas, brother. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, a friend of mine owns a comedy club in Dallas. Maybe I'll come out there. Maybe you bring some people.
Hey, John, I'd be honored. I'd be honored.
Yeah, dude, watch this. His name is TK, and I'll get the name of his comedy club, and you do a little surveillance for me.
I will be more than happy. I've got your number. Well, John, real pleasure. Again, I'm talking to John DiResta, former New York City cop turned comedian actor. Catch him on Instagram, John DiResta, DiResta, YouTube at John DiResta Videos, and see him in Levittown, New York this November at vividseats.com. John, thanks so much for your time today.
Got it, dude. And one thing I forgot to tell you, this is a real big thing. I started doing the open mics when I graduated my class, and then out of nowhere, a comedy club in Manhattan had a contest, New York's Funniest Cop. And that drove me. I won New York's Funniest Cop on set 50. So tonight I'll do set 7,108. But on set 50, I won New York's Funniest Cop, and I was against a couple of real funny cops that were on the job. But I made it my goal. That was the first little, I went from, oh, okay, I'll do the open mics to, oh, wait a minute. Now I have something to work on.
Yeah,
you ride, we hide. Yeah. My gun is so rusted shut, I have to throw it at people. What's it like to be a New York City cop in the subway? I'd say go out in your garage on the hottest day of August, piss in the corner, and stand there for 9 hours. That's it.
I still think
so. I had that first 50 sets had a drive to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to win New York's Funniest Cop. I wanted to win, and I went out of my way, and I won. So that little impetus was like, oh, look, I could put that much heart and soul into 3 months and get to that level. Let me put 3 more months of heart and soul into it and become an MC at clubs where I get paid. Then I started getting 50, 100 a set. I'm like, I brought home money. I said, Fran, here's $100 I made last night. That's $100 I made in 20 minutes, not 10 hours standing at nice price telling you to check your bag. Like a monkey, like a security guard. So that first 50 sets and winning New York's Funniest Cop was the kind of set the stage for, as long as I show up to these clubs every couple of nights and videotape, and now it's every night, this could work.
You put in the work.
Your turn.
Yeah, you put in the work. And for what it's worth, John, I still think you're New York's Funniest Cop. How about that?
Well, they had the contest a year later, and ready for this, the guy that put it together wanted to win. So he said, would you be a judge? So the year 2, I wasn't even qualified because I was too funny.
I'll give you the title. I'm giving you the title now.
Yeah, you got it, dude. Okay,
All right.
stay in touch, bro.
Thanks again, John. You take care, and we'll talk soon.
Portions of the day's programming are reproduced by means of electrical transcriptions or tape recordings.
Thanks so much for listening and spreading the word about the show. Comment to let us know what you'd like to hear and see, and visit our website at nfipodcast.com for news and merch. Support us by becoming a Patreon member, buy us a coffee, or pay our student debt. Keep in touch via all platforms to hear new episodes on a sort of weekly basis. It just depends on how many people I have to yell at that particular week. I'll see you out there. In the meantime, stay safe and remember, do your job.
Flashback back to 72, another summer in the neighborhood, hanging out with nothing to do. Sometimes we go driving around in my sister's Pinto, cruising with